And let's go. Hello and welcome to this IsleVote21 online meeting for the Isle of Wight County Council seat of Binstead and Fishbourne. A brief word for the benefits of the public. IsleVote21 has been formed with the sole purpose of enhancing democracy by providing an unbiased platform for candidates. We have no affiliations or funding and no candidates are aware of what questions will be asked today, although a list of topics was distributed in advance to enable candidates to prepare. All 138 candidates in this year's County Council election have been invited, either directly or via group and party leaders. The following candidates have been invited to this meeting. Ed Hopper, Conservative Party, Ian Dorr, Independent, Simon Cooke, Independent. And joining me today is Ian Dorr.
Hi, Steve.
Hi. Candidates will be asked questions from our pool of questions, plus others that have been submitted by the public regarding island-wide matters and issues from their specific locality. Candidates have been informed there is a 2-minute limitation on answers. I will raise my hand as we approach this cutoff and I request the candidate finish up promptly afterwards. And for the record, I should state that this meeting is taking place after the initial series of meetings that IsleVote had. Ian was unable to attend first time because his daughter was in hospital, which having kids myself and including one that's been in the hospital for a few times, that is as legitimate a reason as is possible in the world. Yeah, and so Ian contacted me and he asked, and I'm a great believer in if you ask, you might get. And he's got. So here we are. And if you don't ask, you never will get, will you?
Oh, it's something I wanted to do, Stephen, but as I said, but credit to the NHS, we spoke, because I had this question from someone in Fishbourne, what are your views on NHS services? And for me, it's been exemplary. We had an appointment that morning with the GP, and straight away, it wasn't life-threatening, anything like that, but we ended up with ultrasounds, we ended up with X-ray, bloods, everything in paediatrics in the whole day. Absolutely superb. And then, further monitoring after that. So hats off. Big support. I mean, we had a baby in lockdown too. Nightmare. But they were superb. I wrote to them saying thanks. Anyway.
Yeah, we had a little girl who had complicated open heart surgery. And, to meet a team of 10, 15 people who are, Oh, I'm getting emotional now.
mate, it's perfect though. Do it, because it absolutely is. They work so blinking hard, and it's just been impacted massively by COVID. And these people put in extra hours all the time. I just, someone said to me a while ago, "Oh, you got medals, you're in the army, you're a hero." I'm not a hero. I turned up for a job, right? And they give you a bit of metal to stick on. These people that put in the extra hours. Yeah, phenomenal. I'm getting emotional too now.
Sure, I know it's like that, isn't it?
Come on, let's do it,
especially when the kids are involved, then they're heartbreakers, aren't they? Every one of them. Yeah. Right, yeah. You have 2 minutes. Give an introduction, please. Go ahead, Ian. I'll get my stopwatch ready.
Okay, go for it. My name is Ian Dorr. I've been here since 1974. I live in Binstead. My family is in Binstead. My mum and dad were till my father passed away. My mother sadly has got Alzheimer's, but we've been here for a long, long time. I went to nursery here. I went to primary school here, middle school here, then on to Ride High, Cubs, Scouts, you name it, I've done it here in Binstead. I'm a Binstead lad. That's how it is. Passionate about the parish. I love here and I choose to live here. I'm ex-army. I was in the army for 10 years after leaving school. I served, 30 years ago in the first Gulf War. Saw action there, and then later on in counter-terrorism in Northern Ireland. When I left the army, I got into radio and DJing because that's my other passion, music. I started working for Isle of Wight Radio. I moved to Power FM, Sovereign Radio, and then finally the breakfast show in Bath FM. So I was travelling around a lot. I was doing youth groups as well and doing some mentoring work. Once all that finished, I decided to move into the charitable sectors because I really enjoyed working with other people and making a bit of a difference. I worked with Macmillan Cancer Support as a corporate negotiator for a while and a media trainer, and also the mental health charity Mind. In that time, I set up 2 community projects. One was a radio station for the community as a wider audience, and the second one was a youth-specific station, which is down here on the Isle of Wight. I think we've got some great opportunities on the island. I think we've got some great people too. I'm passionate about this ward, and there's a lot of things that need to be resolved here, and you need someone that can stand up to the machine and say, no, this needs sorting, let's get it sorted. My whole message really is being that person that will champion a cause. I'm not part of a party, I'm politically agnostic, I'm not associated to any groups or individuals or anything like that. It's me and the fellow people that I have fun with, I live with, and get on with. It's all about the parish and the people. It's not about a party or politics. So come May the 6th, maybe do something different. Vote door.
That was extraordinary. I'll have to show you that. That's 2 minutes. You went 97 hundredths over the 2 minutes. So
it's a radio thing, Stephen.
Clearly.
Used to count plots. I used to get it wrong all the time at Isle of Wight Radio and get told off massively. So
okay. So straight into the tough bit. Are you ready? Yeah. So what I'll do, I mean, as you're coming up to the 2 minutes, around 1 minute 45, I'll put my hand up. Okay. So keep you on track. Okay. Let's go. Can you suggest a new policy the council could pursue on the island, or a new policy that you would champion on the island?
That's a tricky one, because there are so many things that we could focus on. We could look at adult social care. My mother was failed unbelievably poorly by adult social care, so there needs to be some sort of look into that and try and get a resolution. We've got an awful lack of youth provision too. The poverty on the island is absolutely horrific at the moment, and it's only getting worse. I think when I was doing the research for Youth Radio Rocks, which is based in Binstead, there was something like 6,500 youngsters in poverty on the island. It's one of the most idyllic places in the United Kingdom. Has that got any better? No, it's got worse over the last 4 years. I think the data for 2018, 2019 stuff puts us around 7,000. So that needs addressing too. One of the big things I think we've seen, it's been bubbling in the past, obviously, but COVID has really brought this home, and that's our cross-Solent connections. Now, I'm not going to start championing a fixed link or something like that, but I'm not opposed to it either. I think we should have some sort of feasibility study, but I also think it really needs looking at properly, not just empty promises and statements from MPs and council leaders. Currently, the cross-Solent providers actually haven't got any real commitment. If they wanted to pack up and go home tomorrow, they could. We've seen real issues with COVID, with people that need support from the hospital to get across. We've seen cancer patients suffering with times. When my father was ill and I was travelling up and down, I had to sit there for 2 hours. That could have been 2 extra hours spent with him before he died. It's that sort of thing. It needs sorting out, because we have a very poor operating system as we do now. So I think it's something I would look at most definitely, but I also think you need to poll your residents, because that's my personal feeling, but you need to ask the question of everybody else as well. Feasibility study. Okay.
Yeah, feasibility study into which some people won't like the answers that come out of that, but I think it's important that
but that's the point, isn't it? And that's democracy. You know, you can ask the questions. It'll either be yes, it's a good idea, no, it's not. But then, as I said, you've got so many different things that you could be looking at.
Agreed. Okay. You may well have covered a great deal of this in your introduction, but we'll see if you can give us another 2 minutes about yourself, because this question is, what relevant experience would you bring? What have you achieved in communities in the past? I feel a bit bad asking you that one, but having covered things so well, but I'll see what you can do. Go for it.
Let's do the communities thing first. Well, first of all was the community radio station for, I was in Bath at the time, and I was running this alongside the breakfast show that I was doing. I was travelling up and down. I still had a show here on the island, so that was great. So there wasn't a provision for lots of other individuals that don't quite fit in. That's not right. The shows don't quite fit into commercial radio. So you've got the Vectis Radio project over here, which is brilliant, and that covers a lot of things for the island. It's on an FM frequency, and that is superb. Ian Mack is doing a great job. So I was doing kind of that in Bath as well. What I noticed, though, and the feedback I got working with people like the National Citizens Service, was that youngsters didn't really have a voice. Now, with the Youth Radio Rocks project, which is now here in Binstead, we've had something like 3,000 people come through that, doing podcasts about anything they want. There are no creative boundaries. And this is where you can find that little spark that someone's got and really emphasize it and blow it up a little bit, and they get to talk and communicate. And so that's an example of 2 of the community projects I've got involved with. Here on the island, we're just doing some stuff with Network Ride right now. It's in process. We're starting to do some podcasts, again, with whatever the youngsters want to talk about. In terms of qualifications, I left school with pretty much, I wasn't that great at GCSEs, but when I joined the army, part of it, my 2-year training, was education. So I got ramped up on English, sciences, and maths. And then the army gives you such a good basis. It gives you some incredible life skills. A lot of them transferable to managerial situations, but without getting shot at or blown up, which is cool. You know, you don't need that on day-to-day life. Then working with Macmillan, that brings home a massive amount of empathy. And I think as a counsellor, that's one of the main things you need. You might not agree with everybody, but you've got to have the empathy to sit and listen. That's what it is about. Listening, then acting.
Okay, super. Yeah, and empathy does go a long way, and also I think the ability to give people news that they don't want to hear as well, because a lot of people have an idea of the council's powers and capabilities that simply are not correct. They have a misplaced impression of what the council can do.
Yeah, there's all these. Oh, a councillor can stop that. No, they can't, because there's legislation behind it. You can fight against it, or on the flip side, of course, you can support something. Yeah. You know, often that comes up in stuff like planning. But
yeah, why can't the council build it and buy it and turn it into X, Y, and Z? Ooh, wish we could. Okay. So it's been interesting to hear you talk about young people, but note the very last word of this question. What can be done to improve educational aspiration for residents of all ages?
That's a
so can you bring some grown-ups into this too, please?
Grown-ups into this aspiration. That's a really, really tricky one. I guess I can revert back a little bit to when my mother was diagnosed with Alzheimer's. I used to take her to some of her clubs, and that was a big cross-section of individuals. And here, I'm 50 in a couple of weeks' time as we're recording this, Stephen. Happy birthday, thanks, cheers. And one of the things there was a gentleman there, 54 years old, and he really was not in a good way. And yet, they were still all round the table having fun, doing various, you could call it little bits of educational things. I think perhaps some workshops, some groups, again, for all ages would be very, very beneficial. And in terms of aspiration, that's tricky. It's about finding people. Let's take Network Ride as an example. They speak, okay, it's with youngsters, but down at Aspire or somewhere like that, everybody's involved. It's finding that spark. And again, igniting it, because not everybody comes out of school with a real vision of what they wanted to do. I didn't. I had no idea. And so I joined the army, which worked out, luckily for me. I joined a bunch of rogues and it was great. But sometimes you don't have that pathway. It's very difficult to find it. And if you can find tutors or people or mentors or like-minded individuals to find those little sparks, then you might find a pathway in which you can travel. So potentially more groups like that. And in some of the empty properties that we've got on the high street, they could be utilised for that. Bit of high street regeneration goes in there too. So plenty of opportunity. In terms of aspiration, it's a very tricky question. I don't like it, actually, but I hope I've answered it all right.
Yeah, I mean, you answered it all right. If you want my opinion, I like the bit about mentoring and
very important.
Sure, very important, and the idea of getting onto a track. I mean, I'm incredibly jealous, really, of people who realise at the age of 10 or 11 or 12, I want to be a vet, and then they know, right? I'm going to do this, then I'm going to do this, then I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to arrive at that position, right? When you have that clear path in front of you, then I think things are much easier. But I mean,
I will say, if I may, about aspiration, let's say you want to be a fighter pilot of the RAF. All right. Only about 1 or 2% get to achieve that, because guess what? It's really, really hard, or an astronaut. You've got that aspiration, that's great, but don't let that affect any sort of failure, because the pathway, the journey that you'll go along, you will have achieved so much as well. You might not reach that absolute pinnacle of your goal, but the byproduct will be a massive amount of confidence and knowledge as well. So you've just got to have a crack at it anyway. The biggest failure is not having to go in the first place.
Yes, and always do something.
Exactly.
Always do something, even if it's not quite the right thing. Keep your hand in there, keep your foot in there,
Well, it's like this.
keep all your appendages in there.
If it would, exactly, you'd definitely keep your trousers done up. If I don't win this journey so far, this experience has been brilliant. I've met some people on the local patch, and we've had great communication. I'm burning loads of calories doing the leafleting. It's great. It's all positive. All positive.
That's a funny thing, isn't it? I mean, I did have a run at the election back in 2017, and the first thing I realised is, wow, you need some calories for this. Particularly over here. I mean, in my part of the world, in Ventnor, where there's a lot of stairs and there's a lot of long driveways. I'll have to go on for the next question, Ian. I'm a little bit pushed for time.
By Freddo's.
Yes.
Go on then.
Okay. This is a publicly submitted question, and the last one was as well, by the way, about the educational aspiration.
No, it's a good one.
This one is, what will you do to address all the empty shops in each town? The main streets are dying. What should the council do to specifically address this issue?
I've actually made a couple of notes on this. Do you mind if I refer to them? Because it's a tricky one. It's really, really difficult. But I'll go through some bullet points, if I may, because we have got to focus on this, especially coming out of COVID. I mean, the game has changed. We've got a lot of online retailers, but they could be taxed a bit more, couldn't they? Amazon and Google and stuff like that. And those sort of monies could come back into local pots. But we need to be looking at potentially giving relief from business rates and stuff like that, potentially chatting to the leaseholders and going, come on, give these people a fighting chance. Everyone is finding it harder. Also, if premises are left empty for some time, this is something I noticed in Bath. Well, why not do something with them? I'm not saying sell them on, but just say, look, if you don't put a shop in there or something in X amount of time, we're going to use it as an art gallery, or we're going to do some poetry readings in there, or DJ workshops, or something that will bring people in, which will then bring extra people in. And you can have these fantastic little community hubs in some of the unused properties that will build people into bring people into the towns. The other one, of course, is parking. Bin the charges. Relax them, at least for a little while, until we start regenerating the high streets. Local authority need to invest in this, as do the government, because we're on our bottoms at the moment. And also, I think we really do have enough charity shops and coffee shops over here. So maybe put a bit of a limit on stuff like that. Maybe some out of town parking, and let's get the high streets busy again. So yeah, regeneration. It's a really tricky one, and I don't think there's any massive pathway or rather focused pathway on this at the moment. But if you can get people into the stores, maybe by using empty properties for some community projects, then that may, it will. It does drive people into the town as well.
Build it and they will come. So without turning it into the Steve Cockett show, I mean, my thoughts on that'll be next year perhaps. I mean, my thoughts on this are, I mean, if you want people to get into the town centres, you have to physically pick them up and move them into the town centres. Something that hasn't been mentioned in any of the meetings, and if I'm not mistaken, 25% of households on the Isle of Wight don't actually have a car. Okay. Right. Okay. And there's kind of this assumption, isn't there? I mean, particularly amongst the chattering classes or whatever, that everybody's driving left, right, and centre all the time. Well, actually, loads and loads and loads of people are disenfranchised from that. So what are they doing? They're struggling with shopping bags, or they're now, hallelujah, I can go online. I mean, for those people, it's fantastic, because now they don't have to lug these shopping bags all over the place. But if we want those people to be in the towns and start to create that virtuous circle of local businesses, local community, more money going in locally, then we actually have to physically go out, pick them up, and get them. Community buses. There's been a few mentions of the Fit bus over on the other side of the island. So let's have Fit buses everywhere.
Well, you've got all these places that have got these amazing park and ride systems too. Yeah. Pick them up, boom, in you go. And it eases congestion and everyone's, that's not a bad idea.
And I don't want to disparage Southern Vectis, because I think they do an amazing job of connecting the towns together. And whilst they can be expensive if you jump on the bus, once in a blue moon, and actually their season passes are very reasonable. So it's not a slight against them, but there is another space there for smaller community buses, I believe. Okay.
Not a bad idea. Not a bad idea at all. Their service is good, to be fair.
Yeah.
I've had complaints about that. No one's mentioned that the buses are bad. I don't think they are. My experiences have been good for them.
I mean, it's pretty horrible when you don't have a bus pass and you turn up there for the first time. You haven't been on a bus before, and you have to pay £4.50 to go a few stops, right? But then if you are a regular user, you have the season pass, yada 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 yada, and then all of a sudden it's okay, it's fine. Okay, last one, please, Ian. Knowing your local community as you do, what local issue would you like to address that you know is of concern to residents?
I'll have two, if I may.
Yes.
You say no, but I'm going to have two.
We got a minute each, so.
Okay, there's two. Well, there's a bunch of issues, right? Because standing as a ward councillor, you're asked questions: what are you going to do, or how are you going to help local residents, and then what are you going to do as the wider picture. So, focusing on my local area, I was still in two minds whether I was going to do this. Right up until the last week, actually, when I submitted the paper. But you obviously do your research. You go out and speak to people, and you get out there. In February, I got myself a little speed radar gun, because speeding in Binstead is rife. And there had been two petitions, one in 2017 and one a little bit later on, where local residents had complained. Nothing ever happened. And they were absolutely spot on. I've got cars on Binstead Hill, 70 miles an hour. There they are, going across the pedestrian crossing. Okay, shocking. It's happening on Verwood Drive, Binstead Lodge Road, Newnham Road, other areas too. This extends to Fishbourne. Kite Hill is incredible, and Fishbourne Lane. The Fishbourne Lane residents have been complaining for years about it. Again, nothing has ever happened. And although the local parish council looked at it, they didn't do anything about it. A year ago, they said they were going to revisit it. Well, enough's enough. A year is a long time. Let's get something sorted. So speeding is one issue. It's not to chastise drivers. Perhaps you need to communicate, educate a little bit more, and some sort of speed restriction. The second one is dog fouling. Oh my goodness me. How many times has my 3.5-year-old over the last 7 months stepped in some dog poo? It's all over the show. We've had it on the pram wheels, and I'm not alone. It is all over the place. We've got adequate bins. If we need some more, we can get them. But it's a social problem that needs some sort of resolution. And I think, again, education would help, a bit of communication, get some posters up. The big thing is, how do you enforce it? And that is really, really difficult, because I'm told after speaking to the relevant individual, you need photo or video evidence. That is very hard. But those are the two main things that I'm focusing on here in Binstead and Fishbourne. And moreover, I've come up with solutions, and I know that we can do something about them. And pretty quickly, I would hope.
That's fantastic. Yes, being a parish councillor on the other side, down here on the South Pole, the other side of the island, I know that those issues are. But these are the issues that you get that do affect people's quality of life. When they walk out the door and someone tears past them at 70 miles an hour and they step in dog poo, that ruins your day.
It absolutely does. And why? It's not difficult. The rules that you can double bag it, stick it in a bin bag. There are loads of the little red bins. Okay, I understand that during COVID, some of the health officers have been redeployed. I get that. Okay, perhaps we should have thought that through and there should be more money, but I get it. But come on, why do it? And one of the things is bags getting flung into people's gardens and they're hanging on bushes as well. Where does that come from? Just stop it. Be more socially responsible for the community you live in.
Okay. Okay, Ian. Would you like to wrap up?
I will. I was going to do this in a very bad Boris Johnson voice, but I'm not going to.
You're going to spare the public.
Yeah. No. I mean, okay, right. So here we go. Since 2017, we've seen an increase in council tax across the island. In the same period, we've seen parking charges go up. The council tax support scheme, which affects the most vulnerable, has been cut by 5%. And this is disgraceful too. We've also seen the disabled funding cut. There's all sorts that have gone through the floor. There's been promises about our schools getting ramped up to being really good. No, that's a total fail. And if we go to the floating bridge, I mean, it just gets more and more ridiculous. The definition of insanity right here is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. I'm not anti anything, Steve, but this last 4 years with this current administration has been, frankly, a failure across so many areas. Change needs to come. Now, I think it's something like 5 or 6 seats that the Conservatives need to lose, and then there's no majority. I could be wrong on that, I'm not sure. But I do think that we all need to be gelling together and working together to achieve the best for residents across the island and our local communities. I'm lucky. I've got support of the former independent councillor, Ivor Waller, who is absolutely brilliant here. I've got support from the Green Chair of the Isle of Wight Party, Rich Lothian, and Richard Quigley. Incredible. And I just think if we can all work together as opposed to having these little factions, and I'm hesitant to use the word dictatorship, but I'm going to, it just feels that this is the way and we're just going to keep plodding forward. No, it has to change. It has to change for the great of all of us, for the older generation, the younger generation, and people like yourself, Steve, you and I that are sat in the middle. It cannot keep going that way. So come May the 6th, instead of ticking the normal box, like we've all done for a party that perhaps we used to sort of side with over the years, and some of us have changed lanes on the way, have a little bit of a think. Think of the person that may well stand up for you, your family, your friends, and other residents in the community. Who is going to champion your causes and actually stand up and fight? That's me for Binstead and Fishbourne. Vote Door.
Superb.
I was going to do, I tried to be, throw a bit of Latin in there and my friend, all this sort of stuff. But I've decided against it because my impression's rubbish.
Okay. Look, Ian, it's been a real pleasure. I'm going to stop the recording any second now. Okay. And if you don't want to vote Door, at least go out and vote, please.
Absolutely.
Let's get that percentage up. 41% on the Isle of Wight. It's not satisfactory. We want 51. Then we have a legitimate council at least, huh? Thank you, Ian.
My pleasure, Steve. Thanks for your time.